7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, good Christmas Eve morning to you. Thank you for being here with us on this Saturday morning. If you're not with us live, make sure and catch up with us on delay. Shout out to Lloyd, who's over in Alexandria. I called him on his day off. Lloyd just lost his job as he just walked me through this thing, setting it up. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. Keep in touch with me if you need me. If you see anything, text.
Oh, you're good.
We're sounding good? We're sounding good? Hell yeah, dude. We're all right. We're on the moon. All right, dude. I'll holler at you. We landed on the moon. All right, man. That's my guy. That is my guy, Lloyd, waking up with me on his day off here on Christmas Eve, getting us going. And we landed last night back from Colorado. Shout out to the crew. First and foremost, shout out to everybody who held it down here on what was a very busy week of sports. Right, it was a very busy week in sports, and we were away, and we were up in Colorado. And it was a fantastic trip, and I was keeping up with some of the content. And shout out to Katie, to Lloyd, to Coach Caskey, to Jacques, to Noah, to Stewie, to Jamil, to Matuk and his crew, Jared Mitchell, everybody, Nick, Jay, Katie, everybody over here, obviously Lloyd, for keeping it down and putting out really good content here on a very busy sports week while I was away. So first and foremost, shout out to the team as they did a great job, and was really excited to see some of the stuff like Noah hosting the Will Wade podcast. I thought he did a fantastic job, and Katie running the pilot seat here for the majority of the week with Jacques and Caskey, and Jacques breaking news with Josh Williams on Monday. So it was great. Shout out to the team, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Hopefully everybody has a great holiday with friends, family, safe, enjoying everything about this time of the year, as it's such a magical time, and it was great to be with Kelly and celebrating Christmas up in a beautiful part of the world in Golden, Colorado, which was it was -2 degrees on Thursday, which was a different experience for sure, as that's a different type of cold, and I don't see how people just live in that, but it is just a beautiful part of the country. So it was great to get up there, but it's great to be back, and we're not going to be back for long, as I am going to be on my honeymoon January 2nd through the 9th, so we'll miss another extended amount of sports time, and it was good to see. That was really good to see that the team can hold it down, but we'll be sending content back from Kelly, and I will be over in Costa Rica for our honeymoon coming up, and we'll be sending content back from that just because of what's going on. And really this week, when I was kind of just watching and trying not to watch as much sports, but just kind of peeking at it. I mean, we were on the road, and we were in the mountains, and we didn't have a lot of Wi-Fi. It was hard to keep up. We didn't have a TV in the place that we stayed, but in some of the things that I did see, I knew that there was a lot of stuff happening, and couldn't wait to get back and react to a lot of it. And I think the first place that I want to start, we'll talk about all of it over the next about hour, give you something to maybe chew on here on Christmas Eve or over the next couple of days. Ran into a really cool listener from South Louisiana. He was on the plane, and he was talking about missing some of the content this week, and really got me thinking about getting back here on Saturday morning and putting some stuff out. So the first place I want to start before we get to the recruiting class and Denver Harris obviously transferring in, I'd like to start with Jaden Daniels coming back, because I think that was enormous news earlier in the week for LSU to get their starting quarterback, and in announcing that he was returning. And when you kind of step back now and look at what LSU is bringing back, and let's just specifically on the offensive side of the ball, where everyone that started for LSU is coming back. I mean, and on the heels of what LSU just did, right, in recruiting, people have got to be looking at LSU and just seeing the vertical line of their stock soaring through the roof, right? And whether or not Jaden Daniels is the starter for the entirety of next season is still yet to be determined. And I'm sure that we will all debate until we're nauseated before next September and football season starts. But the fact that he's coming back is another just glowing positive sign of what Brian Kelly and his staff have going on at LSU. Do you remember the narrative a year ago now? If we just rewind a year ago, this is about the time when he was introduced at a basketball game, right? And people were really kind of starting to put LSU and Brian Kelly together. There was kind of a shock value of it for a couple of days, but then people started to see it and hear it, and they were making fun of how he talked and his fake accent, and he was a bad cultural fit, and it wasn't going to work out. He was not going to play out in the South. It just wasn't going to work. And you fast forward that timeline, 365 days, to all the good that has happened to the program in that time period. And now here comes Jaden Daniels, the starting quarterback, back with LSU. And you step away from it and you say, hell, man, everybody that started for this team's coming back on the offensive side of the ball. And then what they did in recruiting, you look at LSU and you've got to think out loud, or when you're just, looking at the prospects of next year of, them being a true contender. And for Kelly in year 2 to have the program set up where Daniels had a season like he did last year after transferring in from Arizona State, and then to bring him back with the quarterback room looking like it does, is just, man, you cannot say enough about the impact that Kelly has made in the football program. It just immediately, so much faster than I think everyone. I mean, Woodward, Verge Alsbury, Cody Worsham, the executive team at LSU thought that this was going to happen. This has to be so much faster than they anticipated. And for Daniels coming back, right, what does that do? Well, this is obviously going to have a huge effect on the room and how this thing shakes out. I really believe that all three of them are here for spring, a lot like what we talked about last year with Brennan, Nussmeier, and Daniels coming in. I think you have the same type of scenario in LSU this spring, where all three of them are here. I mean, at least as we speak today. We'll see what happens in the bowl game. I think that the bowl game is going to be interesting to see how they play that position. Jaden Daniels he's been at practice. He's been limited in reps early on in bowl preparation. There's been some talks of him going as well. But Nussmeier's riding high from a confidence standpoint, at least, from an opportunity. He felt like he got his shot. And, there's been so much talk around Walker Howard and his future. I'm not saying that we would see him, and I don't expect to see him in the bowl game. But in the same vein, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him in the bowl game, right? Just to kind of, hey, man, go ahead. Let's see. Let the competition begin January 2nd in Orlando, because one thing that's for certain, and as we talked a little bit here about the quarterback spot for LSU, I believe they're in the golden age of LSU's quarterback, at least from a competitive standpoint, right? The transfer portal has now allowed guys to kind of go compete. If it doesn't work, they can kind of go somewhere else and go get an opportunity. But at least from a competitive standpoint, if you look at LSU's room in the spring, and you've got those three guys that we talked about, Jaden Daniels coming back as the the incumbent starter, Garrett Nussmeier, coming off of an SEC championship performance where when you really break it down, he made some decisions where you're like, whoa, bro, what are you thinking? But he also made some plays where you're like, damn, you can do that. And then you've got Walker Howard who, the majority of the people, everybody you talk to around the program is very excited about what he could possibly bring to the program. And then you throw Ricky Collins into the mix, who's another Elite 11 quarterback. I have, no expectation for Collins to make an impact in his true freshman season, but you just have another talented dude in the room, right? You throw Colin Hurley into that mix in a couple of years here, and now you're talking about like the next couple of just lines of competition at quarterback are stacked for LSU. And that's why I believe it's the golden age of just competition at that spot. And like I've said before, I do believe that Walker Howard is the future of this program. I believe that. I think that, people within those walls believe that. I think that there's a lot of discussion of how they get there. And I don't know necessarily with Daniels coming back if that maybe stunts that decision. Or maybe they just open this thing wide open and say may the best player win. Or Daniels is the starter. He has been the starter. He's the guy, and that's what they do moving forward. It's going to be so fascinating just from a competitive standpoint of how it shakes out, what it builds, for that position. It's going to bring a lot of attention to that room because for the second straight year, it's the most competitive room. If it's not the most, it's in the discussion as in the most competitive quarterback room again for the second straight spring. So that's really positive news there. It's just it's another glowing sign of what Kelly and his staff have put together in a very short time of what college football really takes to get up and building momentum like they have rolling right now. So I thought it was great to see Daniels coming back. Good for him, for just putting himself in a position to make that choice. Right? I think if you would have told Jaden Daniels a year ago when you make when you transfer out of Tempe at Arizona State and you come to Baton Rouge, 1 year from now, you will have the decision, you'll have a choice on whether or not you go to the league or you go back to school. You want to sign up for that? He would have sprinted to that table to sign up for that. That means that he had a very successful season. That probably means that the team and the program had a very successful season. It means he put himself in a position where, hey man, you got a choice to make. Now maybe it's clear cut for a lot of people out there, but for him, the player, he had to think about it. He had to consult. He had to reach out. He had to, ask people what was the possibility. And I know I didn't think that was going to be the case in spring, much less, fall. And Daniels really, he made me a believer. That guy is a playmaker. For what LSU had at offense this season, Daniels was the only guy that made any sense for them. Now, you've got a experienced offensive line coming back with two just hogs at the tackle spot, dancing grizzly bears in Emery Jones and Will Campbell that are here for, 2 more seasons at least. You're building around those guys. You've got a lot of prospects on the offensive line. You've got returning starters on the offensive line. You've got experience there. You've now started to build some chemistry. You trust that group, right? You don't have to ask the quarterback to, hey man, there may be some times where you got to run for your life back there. Things break down, right? You got an offensive line now that you say, hey, look, we can put somebody back there. You can put somebody back there from LSU standpoint that can, really toss the ball around. And I think they believe all three of the guys can do that. I mean, Daniel showed this season that, I'm not going to disrespect that guy and his arm strength. He showed at times where he can make some throws. If he could do that consistently combined with his ability to run, that's a hell of a weapon. Nussmeier, you saw it in Atlanta. And then, everybody is excited about what Walker Howard brings, and Ricky Collins got a whip. And again, I'm not saying that, there's expectation for Collins to play next season, but he is another very talented quarterback that you're just putting into the mix. So, great stuff for Daniels, first and foremost, kind of a launch point for us there to get into it. And shout out to all of our sponsors, all of our supporters, all of our people who are here with us for another year. We've been in this studio for 1 year now. We moved in here on New Year's Eve last season, and we're looking at a lot of the numbers, and we've brought in some people from a business standpoint that are helping us get to the next level, and the consistency of some of our sponsors that have been with us since day one, people like Go Chevrolet and RMB Builders, and people like City Cafe who came over with us. It's just been very humbling to have this opportunity and go into another year of doing things that we love to do. And a lot of that is all of it really is due to the support and the sponsorship that we get from all of our supporters. So we want to make sure and thank everybody before we get out of here today. People like Gordon McKernan, people like Bayou Carlin Oyster Company down there in Acadiana Parish, who do such great work. They're online at BayouCarlinOysterCo.com. Dead Soxy, Katie's Restaurant over in New Orleans, Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, our friend Jude Barker over there, our guy Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones, our friends over at WAFB, our partnership over there. So really thank everybody for another year of chasing our dream, man, here on at FM Digital Media, and it's been so much fun to be here every single morning. Make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button. It's good to be back here for just a little bit. Be with you hopefully for about an hour and a half here on Christmas Eve, just to put out some content after all the news that was happening this week. So that's Jaden Daniels coming back. That was huge. That was big. That was good for LSU. Last night they got more good news. Greg Brooks, junior safety, announced that he'll be coming back for his final year of eligibility. He transferred in last offseason from Arkansas. He worked out, man. He was a guy that really came on strong. We talked about Daniel's emergence. Greg Brooks was another one that very, very much in the midseason, right there around that Auburn game, end of September, really emerged as a playmaker on the back end for Matt House and his defense. Him coming back, as he started 12 games last season, had over 60 tackles. He had a pick. He's to get him back again is another piece of great news, especially for that defensive backfield, right? That defensive backfield that Brian Kelly has mentioned time and time again of a position of need, right? And yesterday they announced that they brought in 7 transfers, including Zy Alexander, the cornerback, and he's been an FCS standout over at Southeastern for the past couple of seasons. Is somebody that can come in and help immediately. Obviously, they had a huge splash in recruiting early on last week when they brought in and got the commitment from Javian Taviano, the 5 4-star, no matter depending on where you look, but cornerback out of Texas who can come in and help immediately. And then news broke earlier this week that Denver Harris was making it official, and he had pledged to LSU. Look, this is something where we had a great source on this, and everybody knows who our source is on this. Tack Miner was my college roommate, for a year when I was helping. And Coach Brady was allowing me to be around his program. One of the things that came from that was that I developed a friendship with all of those guys, and Tack Miner is still a very dear friend of mine. It lived with me for a semester and a half. We lived together while we were in college, and while he was playing on the team. And he is Denver Harris's stepdad, and he's really kind of like Denver Harris's He's been around Denver Harris since Denver was a small child, and he's been bringing Denver to LSU games. Tack is still very prideful about his LSU days. And, we've explained this story. Denver's always wanted to be here. He's always wanted to be here. And adding him into the mix of LSU's defensive back class was an enormous splash. He is somebody that, he had to have that meeting with Brian Kelly, which we documented last week. It went really good, from both sides, hearing from people both on the LSU and on Denver Harris's side. The meeting went, it was fantastic. It was very kind of quick, to the point, very boom, boom, boom. I think both sides were very impressed with one another. I know that Denver Harris's side was very impressed with Brian Kelly and his staff, and not only his staff, but the people around the program. And this is a group that has been, look, they've seen all of college football. I mean, they've been in a lot of people's offices, from Saban to Jimbo Fisher to Kirby Smart and now to Brian Kelly. I mean, it was good to hear the feedback, of what they thought of Brian Kelly, just from an outsider's perspective. Somebody that has seen this before, somebody that has heard the pitches, somebody that has been inside of these head coaches' offices that are making $10 million a year. It was another positive sign about Brian Tellens. But look, from a football standpoint, Denver Harris, he's as big a recruit as LSU brought in, and they brought in some big time players, man. They brought in some guys that are going to play immediately on day one, and we'll talk about all those guys coming up here before I get out of here today. But none bigger than Denver Harris, and not even because you lost Desmond Ricks. I'm talking Denver Harris is a day one, game one, play one starter for LSU and brings back the reputation of DBU pretty quick. Was he doing some boneheaded stuff off the field? And I want to quit bringing that up for Harris. Look, it's been documented. He drove his car fast through a parking garage. Dumb, stupid, dumb choice. Parents took the car away from him. In fact, right? The kid's getting disciplined. It's not as if he's making mistakes and people aren't holding him accountable. Made some choices after that he wants back, but really and truly, we're not talking about, a serial crime, committing type guy. This is, he's 18 years old. So, from the standpoint of getting him on track, I think LSU looks at him as a case that, you could make this a overwhelming success story. You know what I mean? Like, Denver Harris is his motivation and drive is to be an NFL player, and he potentially could be a first-round pick in 2 years, and a high first-round pick. At the midseason point of last season's college football year, Denver Harris was a freshman All-American. He couldn't have played any better. He's very good friends with Harold Perkins. They go way back. They got a great friendship and a relationship. And right now, Harold Perkins is, when he speaks, people listen in the program. He swings a big stick. People respect him in the locker room. And they're going to listen to what he says. And if Denver Harris is a friend of his, he's going to fit in pretty quick in the locker room. And not only that, he's a dog. He's a dog. He is a dog. Turn the film on Denver Harris. That cat is a playmaker, man. He's got swag. He talks shit. He looks good. That's how I like my corners to play. Corey Webster. Right? Those type of guys. Morris Claiborne. Greedy Williams. Derek Stingley. Guys that knew they were good. Denver Harris knows he's good. Those are the types of cats you got to have. And I think on the other side of him, I think Sevyn Banks is a name that we're kind of forgetting at cornerback. Desmond Ricks was a hit. That's That's just Saban doing some Saban stuff, man. I mean, that we've seen it time and time before. I mean, Desmond Ricks, even he wanted to say he was still coming to LSU when he made his commitment. I mean, he had to sign his life over to those people over there. I mean, Saban's still doing the same stuff he was doing in 2007, 2010, 2012, 2014, 17. I mean, he's still doing the same stuff in an NIL world. Now, if you got questions about it, he can just say, yeah, I mean, doing the same thing Jimbo's doing. And I mean, didn't we all know that that was going to piss him off and make this a reaction? I mean, losing to Kirby Smart is not going to fly with Saban. He's not losing championships to his assistant. He meant every word he said about Jimbo and A&M buying the players. You know, I mean, he you knew he was going to react to this. What they signed? 7 5-star guys? I mean, even Eli Ricks. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I can't wait to be a Tide. I mean, roll Tide. You know what I mean? Shit. Sign my life away. I mean, it's a hit. But, I mean, the combination of Sevyn Banks and Denver Harris. I mean, good Lord. I'll take it. You know what I mean? With the possibility of getting Desmond Ricks back next year in the transfer portal, just like you snagged Aaron Anderson. I mean, we haven't even talked about that yet. So much news last week. Man, Colorado's awesome. It's too easy to buy Bud. God, Lord. I mean, it's so easy. It's so cheap. How does anybody make money? 900 dispensaries in the Denver area. How does anybody make money? Buy an ounce of weed for $180 there. I digress. Aaron Anderson. Another huge pickup. I mean, like, the wide receiver room at LSU. It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing to get on a chalkboard and put the players down the line of what you have an option. Look, I would never promote transferring. I would never promote leaving, but I get it if you're Jack Besh. You know what I mean? Like, Besh is good enough to play in the room. I'm not saying that he wasn't good enough to play at LSU, but at some point, somebody's got to look around and say, damn, fellas, I mean, who's the odd man out? We're all pros. All of us are pros. Stop me when I don't get to a pro. Kayshon Boutte, pro. Aaron Anderson, pro. Brian Thomas, pro. Who am I? Malik. Why am I having a brain fart? Number 8, pro. Malik Neighbors, pro. I mean, Chris Hilton, to me, people are going to look at him and say, damn, he can run like that? He can catch like that? Then you got guys coming in like Shelton Sampson, who looks like a pro. You know, I mean, like, that's what they look like when they're 18 years old. I mean, he checks every single box. Height, hands, speed, vertical. I mean, what doesn't he have? Nothing. Jaylen Brown, 5-star. Got to put some weight on him. But, I mean, still will knock the top off of any defense. I love the kid, Kyle Parker from Texas. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Justin Jefferson a little bit. I mean, just a guy that just, nasty. I mean, not a big guy, you know, not by any means Jefferson's height, weight, vitals, but somebody that, he's a hell of a football player. And look, all these guys that are freshmen, I don't know how they're going to get on the field. And a lot of programs, and I'm talking about big time I mean, Shelton Sampson would start at Georgia next year. No shit. I mean, he would start at Georgia next season. It's going to be tough for him to get reps at LSU next year. Right now, on paper, it looks like. I mean, Jaylen Brown, I mean, he's got to put weight on. If you have a deficiency, and I'm talking about a deficiency that makes sense. I mean, Jaylen Brown's coming in from high school. He's not supposed to be physically ready to play at an SEC level. But if you're not, hey, you're a year away at least, because who's not going to play? You got to play Aaron Anderson. You got to play Kayshon Boutte. You got to play Brian Thomas. You got to play Malik Neighbors. I mean, Jesus, man. What NFL team has a better receiver room than LSU? Forget comparing rooms in the NFL to LSU's room. Their room is better than the majority of NFL rooms. It's by far deeper. Right? I mean, like, the amount of depth that the wide receiver room is going to have next season is it's embarrassing. I mean, like, it feels very retro LSU, man. You know, I mean, it is going to be, any defensive back room in the country has to look at LSU's wide receiver room and think out loud that, fellas, this is how we make money today. This is how we get noticed. If we can make plays today, if we can shut this group down, if we can shut down one of these guys, if we can take Kayshon out of the game, if I can hold Brian Thomas from mossing me in the red zone, if I can tackle Aaron Anderson in space, I mean, they got Aaron Anderson. Good God. I mean, they're top 3 wide receivers next year. How do you guard them? What do you do? I mean, what do you do? And then, I mean, like, some of these tight ends that they brought in this class in particular. I mean, I know we've talked to Mac Markway and Galloway and Tavion Galloway, but I think the steal of LSU's class, and maybe a guy that we're not talking about a lot, but, I mean, I listen to Shea speak. I talked to some people up at LSU throughout the week, and they are like fist pumping in the halls at LSU over Kamarian Pimpton, the kid that they swiped away from Vanderbilt on signing day. I mean, he's like a top 10 tight end. Kid's got like LeBron type athleticism. I mean, like, that's what I was told. I'm not, this is not me spewing bullshit. Culotta's always so dramatic. Culotta's going for the headlines, trying to be TMZ. Bullshit. This comes from somebody at LSU. He's got LeBron-type athleticism. 6'6", 230, jump, run, inline blocker, throw it to him, jump over people. Like, they expect this kid to play immediately, early. Look at all the tight ends they brought in this class. I mean, this recruiting class, it reminds me so much of the 2001 class that I'm giddy about it. I mean, think back. Saban got the job December of 99, I believe. And that 2000 class, it was late. Corey Webster was in that class. Corey Webster was the last signee in that class. Saban went and signed him down at St. James. Devery Henderson was in that class. Randall Gay was in that class. He was committed to Alabama. Saban and the staff flipped him late, but it was a very low-key, light class because they didn't have a lot of time. A lot like Brian Kelly, got on the job late last year. He didn't have time, to really, flip guys like Shaz Preston and Aaron Anderson and, these guys that were going to Bama already. They didn't, Frank Wilson. Remember Frank Wilson showing up to, what's our guy in Lake Charles when he showed up in the leather jacket that ended up at Miami? Trevante Citizen. They were trying to make lake runs on guys, and they just, the bridges had already been built. Now you look at that 2001 class, go back to it. It is the cornerstone of national championship. Marcus Spears, Michael Clayton, Marquise Hill, Ben Wilkerson. Andrew Whitworth. Just killers, starters, Hall of Famers, pros, right? I don't know how this class is going to shake out, but I know that they got the top guys, a lot of the top guys at their position. And, recruiting rankings to me, take the top 10, shuffle them in a bag, and peel them out in a couple of seasons to see what happened. I know Bama signed 7 5-stars and they got the number 1 class. Fine. mean, they've had the number one class, 8 out of the last 10 years? Kirby Smart had one and Jimbo had one. But, I mean, for the most part, Bama's had the number one class. And yeah, it's measured out on the field. But, I mean, take the top 10 every year, shuffle them in a bag, peel them away, see how they fit. LSU's class, from a standpoint of attacking needs and going and getting high-end players for those needs, how could they have done any better? Did you want Desmond Ricks? Yes, so did I. I did too. It sucked to lose Desmond Ricks the way you did. I mean, it was a lot like Patrick Surtain a couple of years ago that, it felt like LSU the entire time for Ricks, felt like he was going to come the entire time, and then on signing day gets swiped. But, I mean, look, man, I'm not – Bama is Bama. They win. They roll. They are the standard. But, I mean, they got their ways. I mean, look, they got their ways. And you could see Desmond Ricks. I mean, he's going to Bama. Fine, go to Bama. But, I mean, you see where his heart is. I mean, he's always wanted to go to LSU. You just got to sign your life away, I mean, to go to Bama. And it works out for a ton of people. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I can't wait to see Shelton Sampson going up against Desmond Ricks. Right? I mean, that's going to be a phenomenal matchup. So, the recruiting class, though, it's awesome. I mean, you sprinkle in guys like Aaron Anderson and Denver Harris to it. I mean, you attack a lot of needs, but I mean, just the back-to-back years that they have put together at the offensive line that's how you win championships, in my opinion. I mean, that's how you win. You get DJ Chester out of Georgia. You get guys like Tyree Adams out of Louisiana. You get Zalance Hurd out of Neville. I mean, you go get Paul Mubanga, who, I mean, people love the possibility of what Mubanga can be. There's not a lot of film on him. There's not a lot of a track record on him, but there is a lot of prospecting of what he could be, and there's a lot of excitement for him. And then the class to include, that offensive line. I know the defensive line signees were not where a lot of people were looking. That they lost some guys, kind of throughout the mix from a defensive line standpoint. But they really did a good job in the portal of getting those getting defensive linemen and bringing guys in. So I think that they'll be okay from a rotation standpoint of the defensive line. And listening to Brian Kelly speak, he's not shying away that you have to build a program through high school talent, and there's just some positions that need some fast track to help. And you got to go through the portal to get there. And defensive line and defensive back, I think, are the top two positions that make the most sense. The most sense there. But bringing in a guy like Deshaun Womack, that's one of the top players in the country. He's a 5-star guy. He's somebody who can, edge rush and step in and possibly take a spot and not play at the level that B.J. Ojulari was playing this season, but play at the level that Ojulari was playing at his freshman season. And Ojulari was a freshman All-American. Nathan East, let's talk about Zalance Hurd saying he's playing left tackle. I love the story. Brian Kelly telling that story the other day. If you watched it, Brian Kelly had a press conference and was wrapping up the class, and he was asked specifically about Zalance Hurd, and he kind of he kind of questioned himself in the moment. He was like, I don't know, I guess I could tell this story. He's like, I'll tell this story, Kelly. And he tells the story. Zalance Hurd's like, hey, I'm playing left tackle. Kelly's kind of like, hey, you got a guy like Will Campbell's pretty good. And Zalance Hurd like, yeah, I know Will Campbell. I play with Will Campbell. I know Will Campbell. I'm playing left tackle. And Kelly stepped away. I was like, I love this kid. I love this kid. And I don't believe that he'll unseat Campbell at left tackle. I think Campbell. There's stories about Campbell last year. It's so funny, man. Of Campbell, when they were, LSU was doing a lot of work in the offensive line of the transfer portal. right? I mean, they were going and getting guys, man. Tremont Shorts, they were going and getting, Miles Frazier was coming in, and Campbell is like blowing up the personnel department at LSU. Like, what the hell's going on? Do y'all not want me to play left tackle? What's the deal? Am I not playing left tackle? Y'all trying to move me to right tackle? What's going on? Like, blowing every single day. And like, finally, like, people are like, Joe, chill. They gotta build some depth. You gotta put people in the room. And Campbell was so obsessive about like, what the hell is going on, man? Are they trying to fuck with me? I mean, it was, and like people telling the story. I mean, like I've heard, coaches tell the story. I've heard personnel guys tell the story. I mean, they're all like laughing because they're like, Will, dude, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, just chill. Wait till it gets on the field, man. It's going to kind of shake itself out quick. So I'm not saying that Zalance Hurd is going to, gonna unseat Campbell, but the fact that he thinks he is and has the balls to say it to the head coach and say it out loud makes me fall in love with the guy. Could you imagine playing those two? James Wade says it. Imagine Will Campbell and Zalance Hurd playing high school together. I mean, that is unfair. That is 2 5-star tackles in high school playing together on the same offensive line. Man. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button, if you don't mind. We appreciate you being here. Happy Christmas Eve to you. A great day, Christmas Eve. I love Christmas Eve. I probably like Christmas Eve better than I like Christmas Day. Because, I don't know, it's moving around. Christmas Day is kind of lazy, at least for me, which I like too, but I had a lazy week. I got to go get a lot of stuff today. I'm not happy about the stuff I got to go get. It's going to be a long day. Whew, traffic everywhere. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. LSU saw some players leaving. Look, we talked about this too. Marcus Dumerville's heading to Maryland. I saw Xavier Hill was transferring out, and we talked a little bit about this before I left. And I hate to say this out loud, but this is a good sign. It's a good sign to have guys leaving because they're looking around saying, Lord, look at the guys coming in here. I mean, have y'all seen Zalance Hurd? Have y'all seen Tyree Adams? I mean, this guy, Paul Mubanga, is supposed to look like a physical freak. DJ Chester's, they love. And even the guys that were in last year's class that we don't talk about a lot. I mean, look, Emery Jones and Will Campbell, they're the best. I mean, they're the best to come through here, maybe forever, maybe ever. I mean, when guys like Alan Faneca, Andrew Whitworth, and Todd McClure tell Jacques Doucet that I can't imagine doing what they're doing. I mean, Faneca's a Hall of Famer, Whitworth's probably a Hall of Famer, and Todd McClure just got put in the Ring of Honor for the Atlanta Falcons. They know about playing offensive line. And they even look at Jones and Campbell and like, shit, that's tough. So, I mean, it's what those guys are doing. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I don't know if you'll ever see 2 freshman tackles at an SEC school and, specifically at LSU. So you got those guys, but then there's Fitzgerald West, and then there's Bo Bordelon in the program that have redshirted that they are really excited about. And, you build the lines of scrimmage like they have on the offensive side the past 2 years, and that's how you win, man. I mean, that has been just fun to watch. That's how you win, in my opinion. Offensive and defensive line. If they can recruit the defensive line out of high school the way they have the offensive line out of high school, LSU, that's the formula. And it looks like that's what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying, like, listen to me. They're just, I'm watching them. That's how you do it. I mean, that's how you win. And LSU looks like they're on a fast track to getting there, man. So, super impressive with that recruiting class. I mean, just been really impressed of watching the way that they and look, I don't think they're done. You know, I don't think they're done on trying to find guys. You know, I mean, I think that they'll continue to try and find guys that can come in and play immediately. People asking about kicking down Emery Jones to guard. Here's all I can tell you about Emery Jones. He played there in the Under Armour game, the Under Armour All-American game, when he came in before his freshman season at LSU, and he sat in here for about 20 minutes. He's a great kid, man. Emery, and I hate calling the guys kids because I mean they're young men, they're grown. You know, some of them are grown men. And Emery Jones, he's probably one of those guys that's a grown-ass man at 18 years old. But he said that LSU had discussed with him during the recruiting process of possibly playing guard, and he was open to it, and then going to the Under Armour game, going to the Under Armour game and playing guard, he loved it. He loved it. And a guy like Jones, it fits. I'm telling you, it fits because he loves the physical aspect of it. And he is a freak of an athlete. Has anybody seen Emery Jones play basketball? Mark Cassio is a dear friend of mine, the former Catholic High head basketball coach. He's now an assistant coach with the Appalachian State women's program. He's also doing phenomenal work of coaching film on YouTube. He does some of the best instructive video that you will find in basketball, and in my opinion, that's probably why why he got hired by a college program, is because they found his work online and were like, we got to hire this guy. And if you watch Appalachian State now, I mean, he runs the practice. Not that a lot of people are watching Appalachian State women's basketball around here, but I mean, you can access their program pretty easy. And him being a friend of mine, I watch their social media and I watch what they're doing, and he pretty much runs the practice. But he coached Emery Jones at Catholic High in basketball. Mark Cassio's older brother is Michael Cassio. While Mark was the head coach for the varsity team, Michael was the head coach for the freshman team. And I'll never forget Michael Cassio calling me and saying, Coach, we got a freshman that I'm telling you is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL, but he is like Big Baby on the basketball floor. He's got feet like Glenn Davis. And I was like, come on, Coach. I mean, like Glenn Davis was, Glenn Davis is in Louisiana basketball and even some circles of, big time basketball is kind of, he's kind of like a white whale. He's kind of like, he's kind of like a pink elephant. I mean, he's kind of like this freak that doesn't exist, of a guy that can move like that has soft hands, that's not a dunker, but can still beat you. I mean, that was the thing that mystified people about Glenn Davis, was that he was like 6'7". I mean, remember how many times he would catch the ball and just go back and lay it back up. I mean, in college basketball, a lot of that time gets swatted out of there, pinned up against the glass. But his ass was so big, really, and his feet were so good, and his hands were so soft. He caught everything, and he would, just go back up with it. That he's kind of a freak. And Emery Jones, I'm telling you, I will get Mark Cassio to send me. He has like some cut-ups of Emery at practice and in the game, of him like catching the ball on the wing, sweeping the ball, taking like 2 dribbles, spinning in and like dunking the ball, laying it up. I mean, things where you're like, oh my God, that's a big old man, like just dancing like a ballerina with a basketball. It's super impressive. So his athleticism, his mentality, his attitude, I think he would be a phenomenal guard. And from what he said going into his freshman season, he's open to it. He said he fell in love with it at the Under Armour game, and he wouldn't mind doing it. So I mean, if you can kick Emery Jones down, and Zalance Hurd is as good as he's advertised to be, and I have no reason to believe he's not, because Zalance Hurd is, he's another one that's just big, strong, athletic, mean, things that you're like, wow, I don't know how you don't play him. I know he's another freshman. If you think that you would play 3 true freshmen in the SEC in 2 seasons at LSU if Zalance Hurd comes in here and starts, and I'm not putting that pressure on Hurd, but I think he's that type of player where he'll be in the discussion of guys that you have to get on the field, of guys that you're like, damn, I don't. How do you keep him? How do you keep him away? How do you keep him away? I mean, that's all 3 of those guys, and I agree with Nola P. Will Campbell, Emery Jones, and Zalance Hurd have a chance to be high first round draft picks. I agree. I think that they all could be top 15, top 10, top 15, top 20 picks. I mean, they're very rare type of athletes. Campbell's got that size and that leverage where he's like a grizzly bear. He's like a big bear that you can't really move him. Zalance Hurd is, very strong in his base, but he's also athletic and, can kind of move around out there. And then Emery Jones he's kind of the freak of all of them, in my opinion, of a guy that just his size, his speed, his athleticism. When you look and you see all of that in one package, you're like, damn, that's impressive, man. That's really good stuff. Let's see. James Wade at Jordy. There was a play on a stunt play in the SEC championship game that Emery made against Jalen Carter that was unbelievable, no doubt. And I loved how Emery Jones played that day, because look, there were some times that he got his ass handed to him by a couple of first round picks. It's a lot like what we talked about, with Myles Garrett and Lyle Collins. I think happened to Emery Jones in that Georgia game. But there are also some plays, I agree with James Wade on this, where, Emery Jones flashed it, he showed it, and you were like, he may got his ass whipped the first 3 plays, but he just beat the hell out of that first rounder on that play. And there, I think for Emery Jones' own progression and his own confidence building, he got humbled enough to where he got pissed off and made enough plays to say, I'm supposed to be, and not the fact that he was questioned, but, supposed to be on that field with, Jalen Carter, who's, potentially the number 1 pick in the draft. Or a potential type player like that. Arik Gilbert, Nick Nelson asking about Arik Gilbert going back into the transfer portal. I think it's a sad situation, man. I think it's I hate it for Gilbert, the player. I think if anybody's ever met Gilbert, I had the chance to meet him, and we had a chance to interview him a couple of times. And his mom was a principal she was a principal at Marietta High School. It is very surprising for me. And look, I'm not trying to judge the book by its cover, and I'm not trying to, not understand that, look, we all got issues. We all got problems. We're all dealing with stuff that we don't have any idea of what's going on with people. And I think that the, mental health right now is something that people pay attention to and something that people talk about. And I think that that's a very positive thing for our society. I think that we need to do that more. But for Arik Gilbert specifically, I think it's a great example of, it's a sad situation. I think when you get down to the bottom of it, even someone as smart, and Arik Gilbert was very smart in high school, coming out of Marietta High School, for someone as talented as Gilbert, someone he's a good-looking guy. He's got a lot going for him. You wouldn't guess that he was battling and going through some stuff that we got no idea of what he's dealing with personally, and from all accounts of people that have been around him, a lot of time he was at LSU. It's a very sad situation. It really is, because from a football playing standpoint, he's a first round pick. He's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts was the 4th or 5th pick in the draft by the Atlanta Falcons a couple of seasons ago out of Florida. You know, he was a wide receiver playing tight end, is what Kyle Pitts was. He was a top 5 pick. That's $25 million that Kyle Pitts guaranteed himself by being a top 5 pick. If you're selected within that number, you're guaranteeing yourself nearly $30 million. And Arik Gilbert might be better than Pitts, or just as good. And it's just, and Keem's asking, what the hell is he going through? From what I've been told, and I don't want to speak about somebody, but I've been told that he's been dealing with stuff like bipolar disorder since he's been 17 or 18 years old, or far before he got to LSU. And there were some things that when he was at school was very hands-on from a medicine standpoint, from a therapeutic standpoint, from a mental health awareness standpoint that kept him very much in line and on track. And it's nobody at LSU's fault. There was a communication breakdown on how those medications, on the severity of the mental health issues that he was going through. And when he got to LSU and was independent and was free to roll and just kind of a college kid at 18 with a lot of freedom and you know, a lot of the stuff that we talked about being a first day. I mean, remember, Arik Gilbert caught a touchdown pass against Mississippi State. He had a huge game against Missouri in week 2. Remember, he dropped that. He was wide open on the seam that Miles Brennan put it on him, and he dropped it. But you would have had a chance to see him kind of run in the open. I mean, he was making plays very early at LSU. He was also running wild on campus. And, you know, just getting into some shit. I mean, as a kid. And I'm not saying that's been I just think that has set him back. And it's not been I really thought going home to Georgia would have been the remedy for Arik Gilbert. The fact that it did not work out for him in Athens, to me, is scary. It's scary. I think that's a scary scenario and an issue for that young man that kind of felt like last resort for him, to me. You know, it really did. I mean, I kind of felt like if there's any place that can get him right and that can get him back on track to say, hey, Arik, the NFL is right there. You know what I mean? Like, it's right there, bro. If you go get your life straight for a year and you show that you're dialed in and you're good and you're healthy, there's going to be one general manager out there that looks at you and says, I will bet my life on that kid. And guarantee him a lot, life-changing money. But the fact that he's in the portal, if we're just relatively speaking, if we're just speaking out loud, I mean, get out of the portal. Go to the combine. I mean, I wouldn't even mess with another college. I wouldn't even mess with another opportunity of trying to. I mean, he's going to find himself playing at Georgia Southern. You know, I mean, it's. I think the SEC's probably done with him. You know, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. I think it was. I think it's sad. I really do. I hate it for. I hate it for Arik Gilbert because, you know, selfishly, I'd love to watch him play football. You know, and I'd love to just watch him play. And I mean, I don't mean that like kind of, but I just wish that he would have it figured out and have it going on and good enough where, you know, we could go watch him and his talent, because he's a freak of a talent. I think if you're just talking about the football stuff, he's a top 10 pick, especially in today's NFL, where he's exactly what you're looking for. I mean, he's big and strong enough to block. By now, I mean, I know that he struggled as a freshman when he was at LSU, but I mean, he was a freshman in the SEC. They were playing 10 league games that year. And I'm not making excuses for him. He was going to struggle. But by now, think about by now, he going into his final year, what he would have looked like blocking. if he would have all, stayed on course, on track. But hopefully he's got enough. Reed Wilson, does he have enough college tape? I don't see it. I don't think, he's not a player where you don't need film. You don't need a lot of film. I mean, he's a guy that NFL scouts would watch work out, and they're, NFL guys and really just kind of coaches in general, they're very arrogant people. They're very, somebody's going to look at him and be like, "Oh, no doubt, we are drafting him. We're getting him because I'm going to make that guy an All-Pro." I mean, they're just, and that's the thing about the NFL is that it only takes one. I mean, it only takes one. So, I don't know. I would think that he just goes to the league. Really, I mean, for what? Why go deal with another college? I mean, go. The NFL has. I would think that you would have better opportunity to get help for the things that Arik is dealing with in the league than he would on a college campus. I really do. I think that, from an NFL standpoint, they have this type of personnel on staff. After what happened in Kansas City, and I want to make sure and get this story right, but a friend of mine works for the NFL, and maybe this is the NFL just checking boxes like they do. The NFL is a huge corporation, and they make sure that they keep themselves protected. And, they're going to make sure that they do that. But in 2012, Javon Belcher showed up to the Kansas City facility, and he shot himself in the parking lot in front of teammates and team executives that was, really blamed on, and some of the things that he said before he pulled the trigger to his bosses really proved that, football was really mentally hurting him. I'm not getting into the specifics of the case, but since that day, the NFL has put a mandated policy of teams, paying attention to that part of life, not just sports life. And from Gilbert's standpoint, I believe if he's going through what he was going through at LSU, that would probably be good for him. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. Christmas Eve here edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. We've been here for a minute now, so it's good to be back, man. As I said, I've been here for about an hour. Shout out to my guy Lloyd, who I woke up last night. I rattled the crew last night. I just rattled the cage of Lloyd and Noah because I was trying to see if we couldn't get on air, but we're actually flying the plane solo this morning with no producers. Lloyd does not know it, but he can stay at Alexandria and get his job back as a jeweler because he has totally devalued himself this morning, as I know how to launch the plane. I can't promise that I wouldn't call him at the jewelry shop on the first couple of days or weeks just to make sure I was doing everything the right way, but for the most part, we landed on the moon by ourselves this morning, boys. But that was Lloyd co-piloting from Alexandria on his day off after celebrating Christmas with the crew last night, which was very kind to him to stop in here this morning and get us on the air. So it is great to be back. It really is, man. It's and like I said, thank you to all of you out there for another great year. Really and truly, I said we moved into this studio on January 1st of last year. So it's nearly been a year here of kind of taking this show, this company, our media company, our agency to another level, and really it's impossible to do it without everybody being out there supporting the sponsors, the listeners, the people being there every single day. And I can't thank you enough. And really being away from it, even on a busy sports week like it was, and we're going to miss some more time coming up here at the beginning of January 1st through the 9th. But I won't be in studio, but I'll be accessible and doing some content. But it does, it really is, it's cool to be here every day and to be with everybody that's with us in the chat every single morning, the people that follow us on social media and that, make sure we stay relevant. And we appreciate that very much. So I couldn't wait to get back and, talk about all the news this week, man. I mean, there was so much going on in sports that it was really kind of, it was really as if I needed to do that. You fired? Did you get the message?
I didn't know if you needed help. It's ending the stream.
No, ending your life.
No,
dude, it was awesome. But give me about 10 more minutes and I'll finish up.
All right, for sure. You're still on.
I know. You're not. Later. But like we said, it's cool to be back. It was cool to be away. Denver's a great town. It really is. I mean, Denver's kind of like a little secret spot, dude. I mean, it's not a lot of traffic. It's wide open. Now, the cold weather's a little freaky. It was -2 degrees on Saturday. On Thursday. In true South fashion and didn't learn from a prior mistake that we made a year ago. I had no idea that, these people live in cold weather, that you still have to run the pipes, that you still got to keep the drip, even in middle America, even in the Midwest, where it snows 4 months, 5 months out of the year. You still got to drip the pipes. So, I mean, I've got no running water. Kelly wants to kill me. You know what I mean? We're in this this cabin, in the mountains, bro. I mean, like, we're in it. You know what I mean? Like, it is awesome. But I mean, so I screw up. Don't keep the water dripping. Got no running water on Thursday. So, it's -2 degrees. I don't know how to drive a car in -2 degrees with ice on the ice everywhere. So we're just kind of hunkered in, man. We're hunkered down. I mean, it just bundled up, trying to stay warm. And I stepped outside and took a leak, which was, a terrible, terrible mistake. And as I'm leaking, it's freezing. First off, you got to find this thing with like tweezers and a microscope because it's so cold outside. And as it's like, I'm telling you, like, it's not even hitting the snow and it's freezing. And at that point I was like, all right, bro, vacation's over. It's way too cold out here, man. This is too cold for me. I don't have the clothing. I don't have the mindset. This is not for me. Take me back to the sun. Take me back to 120 degrees. I told the lady when we were in -2 degrees, she was like, "Where you from? We're from South Louisiana, yeah, Baton Rouge. We're not really used to this. Not really used to this. This is pretty free." I was kind of cool with a couple of snowflakes. You know what I mean? She wanted to see snow on her birthday. So, we saw the snow, but this is a little bit too much. I don't know. We signed up for this. You know what I mean? Like, what's the deal on this? And even the locals were kind of like, yeah, this is kind of like, it's way too cold to be freezing like this. And I'm like, so this is freaky for y'all. She's like, oh yeah, we haven't seen this in 25 years. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. 25 years. So, at that point, it was just like, look, bro, let's load this thing up and yeah, let's get back home. But then, as we get off the plane last night, it's freezing in South Louisiana. I was like, where are we, man? I thought we were coming back to humidity and sticky weather and mosquitoes and hot, but it's even cold down, and it's a different type of cold. I tried to ride my bike this morning. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I think just kind of being away for a week, you get out of your element, you kind of get out of your routine. And as I'm on the plane yesterday, I'm chomping at the bit. Knees shaking, kind of like shoulders kind of back and forth. I need to get back to my routine. I need to get back to my stuff, man. Just kind of doing the deal. That's why I'm here this morning. But I'm on the bike this morning and I'm like, this is felt like I was back in Denver. This is. I mean, like, what am I, Lance Armstrong? Am I training for the fucking Tour de France? I'm turning around. I go back. I mean, I'm coming back to the office. I'm not riding this shit. This is way too cold. So, it was a great week. It was a great trip. Denver's a great town. It was great to be away, but it's great to be back. We're not going to be with you on Monday, but we'll be back through the rest of the week. And then I'm getting married next weekend. And then my bride and I are taking off to honeymoon from January 2nd through the 9th. So I'm going to be out from, I'm not going to be in the studio. I don't think I can miss that much time from content. So hopefully Lloyd, if he's still around, is going to be able to video call us down in the islands and bring us up from little boat drinks to reacting to LSU, and not every day, but some of the days. And then, from the 9th on, then we're back in it. So that's just a little bit of a programming note for you. Thank you for being here with us today. Really appreciate that, man. And like we've said throughout the broadcast, thanks to everybody, the sponsors, man, throughout the entire year. I hate doing this on the spot because I know I'm going to leave somebody out, and if I do, I sincerely apologize, but I'm going to try it. From our friends at Go Chevrolet, Lee Carney and Nick Richard, my boys. Since day one, bro. Lee Carney was the first guest I ever had on the Jordy Culotta show. He sat on the couch, the blue couch in my back room at my house. Drove over there. I could see the apprehension on his face. I saw it in his eyes. I was scared to death. I was a nervous wreck. I had no idea what the hell we were doing, how we were going to even get on the air. We had one camera that was looking at us from a computer. It was weird. He was sitting in the corner. The lighting was terrible. It was just pathetic, really and truly. But now here we are. Guy never asked a question, never, just never even doubted. And for that, always, man, always grateful. Rhett Bourgeois at R&B Builders, same thing. Jude Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works. My friend Scott Craig at Katie's Restaurant. Our friends at Dead Soxy. All of our friends over in Acadiana Parish at Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. Squeaky and Cody Miranda at City Cafe. Anthony Piazza at Phil's Oyster Bar. Gordon McKernan in the G Squad over at McKernan Law Firm. Lance Beal and our friend over in Acadiana. Lance Beal and Kenny Abear, our friends over in Acadiana Parish. Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan at Metropolitan Health Group. Mike Roach, our friend at Men's Total Health. Shane and the crew for over at Fresh Chef Eats for always being there for us. Our friends over at True Blue Water, again, making it a very successful season for us. My friend Chad Spillers, who was formerly of Johnson Spillers Dentistry, but now it is in the network out there in Ascension Parish, and still doing great work, man. Tighten me up this year. We'll always be grateful to Dr. Spillers and his wife for always being great friends and supporting us. So it was another great year. Our friend Edward Jones, our Daniel Newman over at Edward Jones. So just want to make sure and thank everybody. Thank all of you, the listeners, and everybody for always being here, man. Hit that like button, share button, comment button if you don't mind. Make sure that you have a good, safe, happy, healthy Christmas Eve and time with family for Christmas and the holidays. Stay safe out there. We will not be with you on Monday. Enjoy your family time one more day on Monday, but then we'll be back with you on Tuesday. So make sure tune in, like, share, comment, as we always appreciate the interactions. Podcast as well. Make sure and hit us on podcast. All right, Lizzie, my boy, make sure to end us there. And really, before we get out of here, some of this growth has, from our company standpoint, has been awesome and amazing to watch. But adding the new shows on, like Nick Diaz and Out of My League, Will Wade and his podcast, Coach Skip Burtman and Hold the Rope, and that group, along with Rohan, along with Mikey, and Shay Dixon and Lloyd, doing great work with Stewie on Wednesday mornings for the recruiting segment is just kind of all signs of kind of what we're doing and the direction we're moving in. So thank you for supporting those properties. Thank you for continuing to like and share and follow and be around our content, as you're the engine, man. You're the fuel. That's what makes this thing move. So thank you. Merry Christmas, and we will see you on Tuesday. Kill it, Lizzie. Thank you.